The telegram arrived on a Tuesday morning in March of 1882, and Nathan Lawson knew, before opening it, that his life was about to change in ways he could not yet comprehend. He stood in the dusty street of Castle Dome, Arizona Territory, watching the telegraph operator hurry toward him with an urgency that made Nathan's jaw tighten. The copper mines surrounding this rough town had brought him wealth, but they had also brought him loneliness. At 28 years old, he owned the most profitable mining operation in Yuma County, employed over 50 men, and lived in a house too large for one person. His mother had been dead 3 years, his father 5, and his younger sister had married and moved to San Francisco the previous autumn. "Mr. Lawson," the operator called, breathless from his sprint. "Important message from back east." Nathan took the telegram with steady hands, though something in his chest constricted as he read the words. His aunt in Philadelphia, the woman who had helped raise him before he ventured west, had passed away suddenly. But that was not all. In her final arrangements, she had made provisions for her companion's daughter, a young woman named Sarah Kensington, who found herself suddenly without prospects or protection. The telegram was from his aunt's lawyer, explaining that Sarah had agreed to travel west to become Nathan's wife, if he would have her. It was a practical arrangement, the lawyer explained. Sarah needed security. Nathan needed a wife to manage his household and provide him with heirs. The lawyer had taken the liberty of purchasing her train tickets. She would arrive in Yuma within 10 days. Nathan folded the telegram and slipped it into his vest pocket. He had never met Sarah Kensington. He vaguely remembered his aunt mentioning her companion, a widow who had fallen on hard times, but the daughter was a complete unknown. Still, he understood duty. His aunt had asked this of him in a way by making these arrangements before her death, and the lawyer was right. He did need a wife. He walked to the general store where the proprietor, Henry Chen, was restocking shelves with canned goods fresh from Yuma. "Henry," Nathan said, "I need you to order some things from your supplier, women's necessities. Soaps, lotions, whatever ladies require. And fabric." "Good fabric, not the rough stuff." Henry's eyebrows rose. "You taking a wife, Nathan?" "Apparently so." "Anyone I know?" "No one I know," Nathan replied, and Henry laughed, thinking it was a joke, but it was not a joke. Over the next 10 days, Nathan prepared his home for a stranger who would share his name and his bed. He hired 2 Mexican women from the nearby settlement to clean every room thoroughly. He had new curtains hung in what would become Sarah's bedroom, though he hoped that eventually she would share his. He purchased a new mattress and had it delivered from Yuma. He even bought flowers, though they wilted quickly in the desert heat. On the day Sarah was to arrive, Nathan rode to Yuma to meet her train. The journey took 3 hours on horseback, and he spent that time wondering what she would look like, what her voice would sound like, whether she would hate him on sight. The train station in Yuma was crowded with prospectors, traders, soldiers from the nearby fort, and families traveling through. Nathan stood on the platform, his hat in his hands, watching as the locomotive pulled in with a great hissing of steam and squealing of brakes. Passengers began to disembark, miners with their equipment, a family with 3 children, an older couple, a salesman with his cases, and then he saw her. She was not what he had expected. She wore a traveling dress of dark blue that had seen better days, and her brown hair was pulled back in a simple bun beneath a modest bonnet. But it was her face that arrested him. She was beautiful, yes, with delicate features and large hazel eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. But it was the expression she wore that struck him most. She looked frightened but determined, like a soldier heading into battle. She stood alone on the platform, one carpetbag at her feet, looking around with obvious uncertainty. Nathan approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Miss Kensington," she turned to him, and he saw her swallow hard before she spoke. "Mr. Lawson, Nathan," he said, "please, Sarah." Her voice was soft but clear, with an accent that spoke of education and eastern cities. They stood looking at each other for a long moment. Nathan saw the dark circles under her eyes, the way her dress hung a bit loose on her frame, the worn condition of her gloves. She had known hardship recently. "Is this all your luggage?" he asked, gesturing to the single bag. "Yes. I had to sell most of my belongings to settle debts after my mother passed." She lifted her chin as she said it, as if daring him to judge her. "I am sorry for your loss, and for my aunt's passing as well. Mrs. Hartwell was very kind to my mother and me. I owe her a great debt." "You owe her nothing," Nathan said firmly. "And you owe me nothing either. I want you to understand that. You have traveled a long way, and I imagine this arrangement is not what you would have chosen for yourself. But I will do my best to be a good husband to you if you will have me." Something in her expression softened slightly. "That is more than I expected to hear." He picked up her bag, surprised by how light it was. "Are you hungry? There is a decent restaurant near here. We can eat before we head to Castle Dome." "I would like that," she admitted. "I have not eaten much since leaving Philadelphia." The restaurant was simple but clean, and Nathan ordered roast beef, potatoes, and vegetables for both of them, along with coffee and pie. He watched as Sarah tried to eat slowly, politely, but he could see her hunger. She had been struggling for some time. "How old are you, Sarah?" he asked gently. 23. "Is that acceptable?" "Of course. I am 28. I just wanted to know." "What should I know about you?" she asked, meeting his eyes directly. "We are to be married, but we are strangers." He appreciated her directness. "I own a copper mine outside Castle Dome. It is a small town, rough around the edges. The mine does well, and I can provide for you comfortably. I have a house with 4 bedrooms, a parlor, a kitchen, and a dining room. I employ a woman who comes twice a week to help with heavy cleaning, but I expect you would take over managing the household." "I can do that," Sarah said. "I managed my mother's household from the time I was 16. She was often ill." "I am not an easy man," Nathan continued. "I am used to living alone, to doing things my way. I work long hours, but I do not drink to excess, I do not gamble, and I have never raised my hand to a woman. I will not start with you." "That is good to know." She paused, then asked quietly, "When did you wish to marry?" "Tomorrow, if you are willing. There is a circuit judge who passes through Yuma every week. He is here now, or we can wait if you need time." Sarah shook her head. "Waiting will not make this easier. Tomorrow is fine." Nathan nodded, relieved and anxious in equal measure. "I have reserved 2 rooms at the hotel for tonight. You will have privacy." "Thank you." They finished their meal in silence, and then Nathan walked her to the hotel. At the door to her room, Sarah turned to him. "Mr. Lawson, Nathan, I want you to know that I understand duty. I understand that this marriage is an arrangement born of necessity. But I promise you that I will be a good wife. I will manage your home well. I will not shame you, and I will try to make this work." "That is all anyone can ask," Nathan said, though her words, so formal and dutiful, made something inside him ache. The next day they were married in the judge's chambers with 2 clerks as witnesses. Sarah wore the same blue dress, but she had pinned a small silk flower to her bodice. Nathan wondered if she had brought it all the way from Philadelphia for this purpose. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed her cheek gently, not wanting to presume more. Her skin was soft and smelled faintly of lavender. They rode to Castle Dome together, Sarah riding behind Nathan on his horse, her arms wrapped around his waist. He could feel her trembling slightly. though whether from fear or fatigue or the motion of the horse, he could not tell. Castle Dome appeared in the distance as the sun began its descent. The town was small, just a main street with a dozen buildings clustered around it and houses scattered beyond. The landscape was harsh, all rock and sand and scrub brush, with the Castle Dome peak rising in the distance like a sentinel. "It is very different from Philadelphia," Sarah said quietly. "Yes, does it frighten you?" "Everything frightens me right now," she admitted. "But I will adjust." His house sat on the edge of town, a two-story structure made of adobe and wood, painted white with blue shutters. It was the nicest house in Castle Dome, and Nathan found himself hoping she would approve. When he helped her down from the horse, she stood looking at the house for a long moment. "It is beautiful," she said finally. "Truly. Would you like to see inside?" She nodded, and he led her through the front door into the parlor. The room was furnished simply but well, with a sofa, 2 chairs, a bookshelf, and a fireplace. Sarah walked slowly through each room as Nathan followed, carrying her bag. She ran her fingers along the mantel, examined the kitchen with its large stove and pantry, climbed the stairs to see the bedrooms. "Which room is mine?" she asked. Nathan opened the door to the room he had prepared for her, with its new curtains and fresh bedding. But when she stepped inside, she turned to him with confusion in her eyes. "You prepared a separate room for me. I thought you might want privacy, space of your own. We are married," she said simply. "Is that not what you want, a true marriage?" Nathan felt heat rise in his face. "I want whatever you are comfortable with. I do not want you to feel forced." Sarah set down her bag and walked closer to him. In the late afternoon light streaming through the window, her eyes were more green than brown. "Nathan, I know this began as a duty, for both of us. But I meant what I said yesterday. I intend to be a good wife to you, in every way. Sarah, you have been traveling for days. You are exhausted. There is no rush." "I am nervous," she admitted, "but I would rather not spend weeks dreading this. If we are to be husband and wife, let us begin as we mean to go on." Nathan reached out and took her hand. It was small in his, the fingers delicate. "Then let me show you to our room." He led her to the master bedroom, larger than the one he had prepared for her, with a wide bed covered in a quilt his mother had made. The evening sun painted everything golden. "I need to tend to the horse," he said. "Why do not you rest? I will bring your bag here. We can have supper later when you are ready." She nodded, and he saw relief in her face that he was giving her time. When Nathan returned from the stable, he found Sarah standing in the kitchen, examining the pantry shelves. "You have almost nothing here," she said. "How have you been eating?" "I take most meals at the boarding house in town." "That will not do." She turned to him with determination in her face. "Tomorrow, I will need to go to the general store. I will need to stock this pantry properly, and I will need to know what you like to eat." "Sarah, you do not have to cook right away. You have just arrived." "I need to do something," she said, and he heard the tremor in her voice. "I need to feel useful, please." He understood then. She was adrift, frightened, in a strange place with a strange man. Cooking, managing, doing what she knew how to do would give her back some sense of control. "All right," he said gently. "But tonight, let me take care of supper. I am not a great cook, but I can manage bacon and eggs and bread." She smiled, and it was the first real smile he had seen from her. "That sounds perfect." They ate together at the small kitchen table, and slowly, Sarah began to relax. She asked him about the mine, about Castle Dome, about Arizona Territory. He told her about the challenges of mining in the desert, about the community of Mexican and American and Chinese families that made up the town, about the summers that were brutally hot and the winters that were surprisingly cold at night. "You like it here?" she asked. "I do. I know it is harsh, but there is something honest about it. You work hard and the land rewards you or it does not, but there is no pretense. I think I can learn to like it, she said thoughtfully. When the sun set completely and the desert darkness closed in, Nathan lit the lamps throughout the house. Sarah washed the dishes, insisting on it, and then they stood in the hallway outside their bedroom, suddenly awkward with each other again. I should get ready for bed, Sarah said. Yes. I will give you some privacy. He went downstairs and sat in the parlor, listening to the soft sounds of her moving around above him. When enough time had passed, he climbed the stairs slowly, knocked gently on the bedroom door. Come in, she called. She was sitting on the edge of the bed in a white nightgown, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked very young and very vulnerable, and Nathan felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. He crossed the room and knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. Sarah, we do not have to do anything you are not ready for. I am ready, she whispered. I am just nervous, so am I. That made her smile again. You are. I have not done this before, he admitted. Not with someone I care about, not with my wife. You care about me already. Yes, he said simply. I know that is strange. We barely know each other, but I look at you and I want to protect you. I want to make you happy. I want this marriage to be more than duty. Tears filled her eyes. I was so afraid you would see me as a burden, as an obligation. Never. He reached up and cupped her face gently. May I kiss you? Properly, she nodded, and he leaned in, pressing his lips to her softly. She tasted of coffee and something sweet, and when she kissed him back, tentatively at first and then with growing confidence, he felt something shift in his chest. Their wedding night was gentle and awkward and sweet. Nathan was careful with her, patient, and Sarah responded with a willingness that touched him deeply. Afterward, she curled against his side, her head on his chest, and he held her close, stroking her hair. Thank you, she whispered. For being kind. You do not have to thank me for that. Many men would not have been. He kissed the top of her head. Then many men are fools. In the morning, Nathan woke to find Sarah already up, dressed, and working in the kitchen. The smell of coffee filled the house, and when he came downstairs, he found her making a list on a piece of paper. Good morning, he said. She turned, and her cheeks flushed pink. Good morning. I hope I did not wake you. No, what are you doing? Making a list of what we need from the store. We need everything, Nathan. Flour, sugar, salt, lard, yeast, dried beans, rice, canned goods, spices, coffee, tea, and vegetables if they have them, meat, eggs. Do you have chickens? No, we should get chickens. And I noticed your garden plot is not planted. Do people garden here? Can things grow? He laughed at her enthusiasm. Yes, with enough water, but Sarah, I have money. You do not need to worry about expenses. I am not worried, I am planning. She looked at him seriously. I want to make this house a home. Is that all right? That is more than all right. They walked to the general store together, and Nathan introduced Sarah to Henry Chen and his wife, May, who ran the store together. May's face lit up when she learned Sarah was Nathan's new wife. Finally, May said, clapping her hands together. Nathan needs a wife. House too quiet for too long. Sarah smiled and began discussing with May what supplies were available and what would need to be ordered from Yuma. Nathan watched his wife's face become animated as she planned, and he felt something warm spread through his chest. Over the next few weeks, Sarah transformed his house. She cooked meals that amazed him, hearty stews and fresh bread and pies that reminded him of his mother's cooking. She planted a garden and tended it carefully, coaxing lettuce and tomatoes and beans from the reluctant desert soil. She made curtains for every window and acquired chickens that pecked around the yard and provided fresh eggs. But more than the physical changes, she brought life to the house. She hummed while she worked. She left books open on the tables, markers of her presence. She asked Nathan about his day every evening, and listened with genuine interest as he talked about ore quality and equipment problems and worker disputes. And slowly, carefully, they learned each other. Nathan discovered that Sarah loved to read and had a sharp mind for business. When he mentioned problems with his mine accounts, she offered to help, and he found her skills with numbers exceeded his own. Sarah discovered that Nathan had a dry sense of humor that emerged when he was comfortable, and that he was respected by his workers, but also fair and willing to listen to their concerns. They also learned each other's bodies. Their initial awkwardness faded, replaced by growing passion and tenderness. Nathan had never imagined that the marriage bed could be a place of such joy, but Sarah met him with an eagerness that humbled and excited him. One evening about 6 weeks after their wedding, they were sitting together on the porch watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of orange and purple. Sarah was mending one of Nathan's shirts, and he was reviewing the mine's weekly reports. "Nathan," Sarah said suddenly, "may I ask you something? Anything? Are you happy with this marriage, with me?" He set down his papers and turned to her, taking the sewing from her hands so he could hold them instead. "Sarah, I have never been happier in my life. You have given me more than I ever expected. More than I deserve. You expected duty," she said softly, "but I find that I cannot help giving you more than that. I think I am falling in love with you." His heart seemed to stop and then restart with a force that took his breath away. "You are?" "Yes, I did not expect it. I thought this would always be an arrangement, but you have been so good to me, so kind, so patient. How could I not love you?" Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her tight against his chest. "I love you too. I think I started loving you the moment I saw you on that train platform, looking so brave and so frightened at the same time." She tilted her face up to his, and he kissed her deeply, pouring all his feelings into it. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "Take me to bed," she whispered. "I want to show you how much I love you." He stood, pulling her up with him, and led her inside. Their lovemaking that night was different, infused with the new knowledge of their feelings, and afterward they lay tangled together, speaking softly of their hopes and dreams for the future. But their happiness was tested sooner than either expected. 2 months after their wedding, trouble came to Castle Dome in the form of a mining company from California. They wanted to buy Nathan's mine, and when he refused, they began causing problems. Equipment was sabotaged. Workers were bribed to leave his employment. Rumors were spread that his mine was failing. Nathan came home each evening exhausted and frustrated, and Sarah saw the toll it was taking on him. She listened, offered advice when he asked for it, and held him when words were not enough. One evening, Nathan came home to find Sarah waiting for him with determination in her eyes. "I have an idea," she said, "about your problem." "What is it?" "These men from California, they are trying to force you to sell by making you look weak. What if instead you looked stronger? What if you expanded, bought more equipment, hired more men? Show them you are not afraid and not backing down." Nathan shook his head. "That would require more capital than I have available right now." "What about investors? You have a profitable operation. Surely there are people who would be interested." "Perhaps, but finding investors takes time, and I do not know if I have that time." Sarah bit her lip, then spoke carefully. "What if I told you I have some money, not a fortune, but something? My mother's family left her a small trust that passed to me when she died. I have been afraid to mention it because I thought you might feel I did not trust you. But it is about $3,000. Would that help?" Nathan stared at her. "Sarah, that is your money, your security. You are my security now. Let me help you. Let me be your partner in this, not just your wife." He crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. "You would do this for me. I would do anything for you. Do you not know that by now?" He kissed her fiercely. "We will make a contract. The money will be an investment. When the mine profits, you profit. I do not need a contract. I trust you. And I need you to be protected. We do things properly." Over the next month, Nathan used Sarah's money and a loan from a bank in Yuma to expand his operation. He bought new equipment and hired 15 more men. He also quietly spread word that he had investors backing him, and the California company's efforts to undermine him began to fail. Sarah worked alongside him, managing the accounts, negotiating with suppliers, even visiting the mine to speak with the workers and their families. The men respected her because she treated them with dignity and fought for fair wages and safe conditions. The California company finally withdrew, recognizing they could not force Nathan out. His mine became the most successful in the region, and Sarah's investment paid back tenfold, but the success came with a cost. Nathan was working harder than ever, often leaving before dawn and returning after dark. Sarah saw him less and less, and when she did see him, he was exhausted. One evening in November, Sarah decided enough was enough. When Nathan came home, she was waiting with a packed saddlebag and 2 horses ready. "What is this?" he asked. "We are going away for 3 days. Sarah, I cannot. I have too much to do." "Your mine will not collapse in 3 days. Your foreman is capable. And if you do not stop, you are going to collapse. Please, Nathan, do this for me, for us." He looked at her determined face and sighed. "Where are we going?" "There is a place about 10 miles north. A canyon with a spring. May told me about it. She says it is beautiful." "I know the place." "Then take me there. Let us have 3 days where you are not Nathan Lawson, mine owner, just Nathan, my husband." He smiled, the first real smile she had seen in weeks. "All right. For you." They rode out in the last light of day, reaching the canyon as the stars emerged in the vast desert sky. The spring May had told Sarah about formed a small pool surrounded by cottonwood trees, and the canyon walls rose protectively around it. They made camp, and Nathan started a fire while Sarah unpacked the food she had brought. They cooked beans and bacon and ate under the stars, and the tension began to drain from Nathan's shoulders. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I have been so focused on the mine. I have been neglecting you. I understand why. But Nathan, what is the point of success if we have no time to enjoy it together? You are right. I have been a fool, not a fool. Just a man who works too hard because he cares too much." They spread their bedrolls near the fire, and Nathan pulled Sarah close, wrapping them both in a thick blanket. They lay looking up at the stars, so brilliant in the clear desert air. "Sarah," Nathan said, "if we have children, I want to be a better father than I have been a husband lately. I want to be present. I want them to know me." Her heart skipped. "You want children?" "Yes, do you?" "Very much. I have been hoping, but nothing has happened yet. It will. And when it does, I promise I will be there. I will not let work consume me the way I have been. I will hold you to that promise." They made love under the stars, and something shifted between them again, deepening what was already deep. The 3 days in the canyon were a gift. They talked for hours, swam in the cold spring water, explored the canyon, and made love whenever the mood struck them. They laughed more than they had in months. They remembered why they loved each other. When they returned to Castle Dome, Nathan kept his word. He began delegating more, trusting his foreman and Sarah to handle things he had previously insisted on doing himself. He came home for supper every evening. He made Sundays a day of rest, spending it with Sarah. And 2 months later, Sarah told him she was expecting a child. Nathan's reaction was everything she could have hoped for. He swept her into his arms, spinning her around until she was dizzy and laughing, and then he very carefully set her down as if she were made of glass. Are you all right? Should you be standing? Do you need to sit down? She laughed. Nathan, I am pregnant, not ill. I am fine. But he fussed over her anyway, and Sarah found she did not mind. His devotion, his obvious joy, made her fall even more deeply in love with him. The pregnancy was not easy. The desert heat during the summer was oppressive, and Sarah struggled with nausea that lasted well beyond the first few months. But Nathan was there through all of it, bringing her cool water, sitting with her when she could not sleep, rubbing her aching back. The women of Castle Dome rallied around her too. Mei Chen brought ginger tea for the nausea. Maria Gomez, whose husband worked in the mine, shared advice from her own 5 pregnancies. Even the rough miners treated Sarah with gentle respect, tipping their hats and asking after her health. In early March of 1883, almost exactly a year after Nathan had received that life-changing telegram, Sarah went into labor. Nathan had arranged for a midwife to come from Yuma, and he sent for her the moment Sarah's pains began. The labor was long and difficult. Nathan paced downstairs, listening to Sarah's cries, feeling helpless and terrified. Mei Chen stayed with him, bringing him coffee and speaking calmly about how strong Sarah was. Finally, in the gray light just before dawn, the midwife called down to him. "Mr. Lawson, you have a son. And your wife is asking for you." Nathan took the stairs 3 at a time. Sarah lay in their bed, exhausted and pale but smiling. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in soft cotton. "Nathan," she whispered, "come meet your son." He approached slowly, awed and terrified. When he looked down at the baby, he saw a tiny red face, eyes squeezed shut, small fists waving. "Can I hold him?" Sarah carefully transferred the baby to Nathan's arms. The child was so small, so perfect, and Nathan felt his eyes burn with tears. "He is beautiful, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you for this gift. What should we name him?" she asked. They had discussed names but not decided. Now Nathan looked down at his son and said, "Thomas, after my father, if that suits you." "Thomas Lawson, it is perfect." The midwife shooed Nathan out after a few minutes, insisting Sarah needed to rest. But every hour, Nathan crept back in to check on them both, unable to stay away. Over the next months, Nathan discovered the joys and terrors of fatherhood. Thomas was a fussy baby, colicky and difficult to soothe. But Sarah handled it with patience Nathan envied, and together they walked the floor countless nights, taking turns holding their crying son. Slowly, Thomas grew stronger and happier. His eyes, which started out blue, began to change to a hazel that matched Sarah's. His hair came in dark like Nathan's, and when he smiled, which he began to do around 3 months, both parents were utterly lost to him. Nathan kept his promise about being present. He still worked hard, but he came home every evening to spend time with his family. He insisted on helping with Thomas, changing nappies and giving baths and rocking the baby to sleep. He wanted to be involved in every aspect. Sarah watched her husband with their son and fell even more in love with him. This was not the dutiful marriage she had expected. This was a partnership built on mutual respect, deep affection, and growing love. One evening, when Thomas was 6 months old, Sarah and Nathan sat on their porch watching their son crawl on a blanket spread on the ground. The baby was fascinated by everything, reaching for blades of grass and rocks with equal enthusiasm. "I never imagined this," Sarah said softly. "When I got on that train in Philadelphia, I thought I was going to a life of duty and obligation. I thought I would be lonely. Are you lonely?" Nathan asked, though he thought he knew the answer. "How could I be? I have you and Thomas. I have friends here. I have a home. Nathan, I am happier than I ever thought possible." He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "So am I. You have given me everything, Sarah, not just duty. Not just what was required. You have given me devotion that goes beyond anything I expected or deserved." "You deserve it," she said firmly. "You are a good man, a good husband, a wonderful father. Of course I am devoted to you." "I am devoted to you too. You know that, do not you?" "I do. You show me every day." Thomas chose that moment to topple over on the blanket, letting out an indignant squawk. Both parents laughed and went to help him, and the moment of tenderness passed, but the feeling behind it remained. Life continued in Castle Dome. The mine prospered. Thomas grew from a baby to a toddler, curious and energetic, and constantly getting into mischief. And 2 years after Thomas's birth, Sarah told Nathan she was expecting again. This pregnancy was easier than the first. Sarah knew what to expect, and her body seemed to handle it better. When she went into labor in November of 1885, the midwife declared it the easiest birth she had attended in years. "It is a girl," she announced, handing the baby to Sarah. Nathan looked down at his daughter, tiny and perfect with a cap of dark hair, and felt his heart expand. "What shall we name her?" Sarah asked. "You choose this time," Nathan said. "Rose, after your mother." He kissed Sarah softly. "She would have loved that, and she would have loved you." Rose Lawson was a calmer baby than her brother had been, content to watch the world with wide, curious eyes. Thomas, now almost 3, was fascinated by his sister, wanting to help with everything and constantly bringing her his toys. The family settled into new rhythms. Nathan hired more help at the mine so he could spend even more time at home. Sarah balanced caring for 2 children with managing the household accounts and helping with the mine's business affairs. They were busy and sometimes exhausted, but they were happy. One evening in the spring of 1886, after both children were asleep, Nathan and Sarah sat together in their bedroom enjoying a rare moment of quiet. "You remember our wedding night?" Sarah asked suddenly. "Of course. How could I forget? We were so awkward with each other, so uncertain. We were strangers." "We are not strangers anymore," she said, moving closer to him. "Now we know each other completely." He pulled her into his lap, nuzzling her neck. "That we do, and I like what I know." "Show me," she whispered. Their lovemaking had changed over the years. The initial awkwardness had given way to passion, and the passion had deepened into something richer, infused with tenderness and knowledge. They knew how to please each other, what touches brought sighs, what words brought gasps. Afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, Nathan spoke quietly. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I have been contacted by businessmen from back east. They want to invest in expanding my operation significantly. It would mean more money, more responsibility, more work." Sarah tensed. "What did you tell them?" "I told them I needed to discuss it with my wife first, because whatever I decide affects you and our children." She relaxed against him. "What do you want to do?" "Honestly, I am not sure. Part of me wants to expand to see how successful we can be. But part of me is afraid of losing what we have. This life, this balance, I do not want to go back to working all the time." "Then do not," Sarah said simply. "We have enough, Nathan. More than enough. If expanding means sacrificing time with your family, is it worth it? You would not mind." "If I turned down this opportunity, I married you for you, not for your money. I would rather have a husband who is home for supper every night than a fortune we have no time to enjoy." He kissed the top of her head. "You are remarkably wise, you know that. I am remarkably in love with you. That makes the decision easy." Nathan turned down the investment opportunity. Some men in Castle Dome thought he was crazy, but he did not care. He had everything he needed. The years passed in a rhythm of work and family, challenges and joys. Thomas grew into a serious boy who loved books and asked endless questions about how things worked. Rose was her father's daughter, fearless and determined, climbing everything she could reach and getting into constant scrapes. When Thomas was 8 and Rose was 5, Sarah told Nathan she was expecting their third child. This pregnancy was harder than the previous two, and Nathan worried constantly. But in the summer of 1890, Sarah delivered a healthy son they named James. James was a happy baby, quick to smile and laugh, and his arrival brought new energy to the household. Thomas took his role as big brother seriously, helping care for both younger siblings. Rose was less interested in the baby but proud to no longer be the youngest. The mine continued to prosper, but Nathan never let it consume him the way it had in those early months. He had learned his lesson. Family came first, always. In 1892, when Castle Dome was nearly a ghost town as miners moved on to richer strikes elsewhere, Nathan and Sarah discussed whether they should leave too. But they had built a life here. They had a home, friends, a community. And Nathan's mine was still profitable, even if others had failed. "I like it here," Sarah said. "It is quiet now, but it is peaceful. The children are happy. Why would we leave? Some people would say we are foolish to stay." "Some people do not matter. Do you want to leave?" "No," Nathan admitted. "This is home," so they stayed. Thomas attended school in Yuma during the week, staying with a family there and coming home on weekends. Rose was old enough to start formal schooling too, but Sarah taught her at home, not wanting her daughter to be away so much. James was a whirlwind of energy, keeping both parents busy. Years continued to pass. Arizona became a state in 1912, and Castle Dome held a celebration that the whole family attended. Thomas was 29 now, working as an engineer in Phoenix. He had married a kind woman named Elizabeth, and they had 2 children of their own. Rose, at 24, had shocked everyone by becoming a teacher in Yuma, unmarried and independent. James, at 22, worked alongside Nathan in the mine and showed every sign of taking it over eventually. Nathan and Sarah had grown older together, their hair graying, their faces lined, but their love had not diminished. If anything, it had grown stronger, deepened by years of shared life. One evening in the spring of 1915, they sat together on the same porch where they had sat so many times before. They were both 61 now, and their children were grown, but they still found joy in each other's company. "You remember the day we met?" Nathan asked. "Every detail. I was so frightened. I had no idea what kind of man you would be. And what kind of man was I?" "The best kind," Sarah said simply. "You were kind when you could have been cold. You were patient when you could have been demanding. You gave me time to learn to love you." "I expected duty," Nathan said softly, repeating words he had said many times over the years. "But you gave me devotion beyond measure. And you gave me the same. We gave each other everything." He took her hand, the gesture so familiar after 33 years of marriage. "I would do it all again, every moment." "So would I, no regrets, not a single one." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in the same brilliant colors it had on their first evening together in this house. So much had changed since then. The rough mining town had become a quiet settlement. Their children had grown and left to build their own lives. The wild west of their youth had been tamed, transformed, but their love remained constant, a steady flame that had never flickered. "Nathan," Sarah said eventually, "do you think we will have time for more adventures, or are we too old?" He laughed. "We are never too old. What kind of adventures did you have in mind?" "I want to visit Thomas and Elizabeth in Phoenix, see their new house, spend time with the grandchildren, and I want to visit Rose in Yuma, see her school, and maybe we could take a trip, just the 2 of us. See California, or go back to Philadelphia. I want to show you where I grew up." "Then we will do all of that. We have time, Sarah. We have all the time in the world," and they did. They spent the next years traveling when they wanted, staying home when they preferred. They welcomed more grandchildren, doted on them all, and watched with pride as their children built successful lives. The mine remained profitable under James's management, and Nathan slowly stepped back, letting his son take over while he enjoyed his leisure. In 1920, on their 38th wedding anniversary, Nathan planned a surprise for Sarah. He had arranged for all 3 of their children and all 7 grandchildren to come to Castle Dome for a celebration. When Sarah walked into the parlor that morning to find her entire family gathered, she burst into tears of joy. They spent a wonderful week together, the house full of noise and laughter and love. The grandchildren played in the same yard where Thomas and Rose and James had played. The family ate meals at the same table where Nathan and Sarah had shared thousands of meals. Stories were told, jokes were shared, love was everywhere. On the last evening after the grandchildren were in bed and the adult children had retired to their rooms, Nathan and Sarah sat alone in the parlor. "Thank you," Sarah said, "for this week, for this life, for everything. You do not have to thank me." "Yes, I do. I got on a train in 1882 expecting nothing but duty and obligation. I found love instead. Real, deep, lasting love. That is a gift beyond measure." Nathan moved from his chair to sit beside her on the sofa, pulling her close. "We found it together. That is the secret. Neither of us did this alone. No, we were partners. Always." "Always," he agreed. They sat together in the lamplight, 2 people who had started as strangers and become everything to each other. Outside, the desert night was vast and dark, but inside, everything was warm and bright and full of love. "Sarah," Nathan said after a while, "if I could go back to that train platform in Yuma, knowing everything that would happen, all the challenges and joys, would you get on that train again?" "Without hesitation," she answered immediately. "Every time, in every life, I would always choose you. And I would always choose you." They kissed, softly and sweetly, a kiss that held 38 years of love and countless more to come. The years that followed were gentle ones. Nathan and Sarah remained in Castle Dome, content in the home they had made together. They watched their grandchildren grow, celebrated each milestone, grieved small losses, and rejoiced in countless victories. Their love remained the constant, the foundation on which everything else was built. In 1925, on a warm spring evening, they celebrated their 43rd wedding anniversary with a quiet dinner, just the 2 of them. James and his wife had offered to host a big party, but Nathan and Sarah preferred the intimacy of being alone together. 43 years, Sarah marveled. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday that I got off that train. Sometimes it feels like we have always been together." "I know exactly what you mean. You remember being young, really young, before all of this." "Barely. That person seems like a stranger. I was so alone then, so focused on work. I did not know what I was missing. Neither did I. I thought I understood what marriage was, what love was. I had no idea." Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. "We built something remarkable, you and I. Against all odds, we built something that lasted. It lasted because we worked at it, because we chose each other every day. And because you gave me devotion beyond measure," Nathan said softly. "You showed me what love could be. You taught me how to be a husband, a father, a better man." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "And you showed me that I was worth loving, that I was more than a duty or a burden. You made me believe in myself." They both stood and moved into each other's arms, holding tight. After 43 years, they still fit together perfectly, still found comfort and strength in each other's embrace. That night, they lay together in their bed, the same bed they had shared for more than 4 decades. The house was quiet around them, full of memories and love. "Nathan," Sarah whispered in the darkness, Promise me something, anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter how many years we have left, we will always be honest with each other. We will always tell each other what we are feeling. We will never take each other for granted. I promise. Though, Sarah, I could never take you for granted. Not after knowing what my life was like without you. I love you, she said. I have loved you for 43 years, and I will love you for however many years we have left. I love you too, more than words can express. They fell asleep tangled together as they had thousands of times before. The morning sun streamed through the bedroom window, warm and golden. Nathan woke first, as he usually did, and lay quietly watching Sarah sleep. Her face was peaceful, the lines of age evident but beautiful to him. She was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. When her eyes opened and found him watching her, she smiled. "Good morning." "Good morning. How did you sleep?" "Wonderfully. I always sleep well in your arms." They rose together, moving through their morning routine with the ease of long practice. Nathan made coffee while Sarah prepared breakfast. They ate together at the kitchen table, discussing their plans for the day. It was all so ordinary, so domestic, and so precious. Later that morning, as Sarah worked in her garden and Nathan repaired a section of fence, they called to each other across the yard, sharing small observations and gentle teasing. Their love was in these small moments as much as in grand gestures. It was in the daily choice to be together, to build a life together, to face whatever came together. In the afternoon, they rode into what remained of Castle Dome. The town was much smaller now, many of the buildings abandoned or fallen into disrepair. But the general store still stood, run now by Henry and May's son, who greeted them warmly. "Mr. and Mrs. Lawson, good to see you." "Hello, Peter," Sarah said. "How is your mother?" "She is well, sends her regards." They purchased a few supplies and spent some time chatting with the few people they encountered. Everyone knew them, respected them. They were a fixture in Castle Dome, their love story legendary in the small community. On the ride home, Nathan said, "Do you ever miss how it was when this town was busy and full of life?" "Sometimes," Sarah admitted, "but mostly I am just grateful we stayed. This is where our life together really began. This is where we became who we are. I am glad we stayed too." That evening, as they had so many evenings, they sat on their porch and watched the sunset. The desert spread before them, harsh and beautiful, unchanged by the passage of time. "Nathan," Sarah said thoughtfully, "what do you think our legacy will be? What will people remember about us?" He considered the question. "I hope they remember that we loved each other well, that we built something lasting, that we raised good children and were faithful to each other and to our community. That is a good legacy. What do you hope they remember?" "The same. But also, I hope they remember that love can grow even in unexpected places. That sometimes the best things in life come from taking a chance, from being brave enough to step into the unknown." "You were so brave," Nathan said. "Getting on that train, traveling across the country to marry a stranger. I do not think I ever properly acknowledged how brave that was. I did not feel brave. I felt terrified. But you did it anyway. That is what bravery is." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. "We were both brave. You took a chance on me too. You could have been cold and distant. You could have kept our marriage purely practical, but you opened your heart instead. Best decision I ever made." They sat in peaceful silence as the sky darkened and the first stars appeared. The night air was cool, and Nathan pulled Sarah closer to keep her warm. This, he thought, was happiness. Not grand adventures or great wealth, though they had experienced both. Just this, sitting with the woman he loved, watching the stars emerge, knowing they would face tomorrow together. The years continued to pass, and Nathan and Sarah continued their life together. They had their share of challenges as they aged. Health issues that required trips to doctors in Yuma. The deaths of old friends that reminded them of their own mortality. The normal difficulties of growing older. But they faced it all together, as they had faced everything else. When Nathan's joints ached, Sarah rubbed liniment into them. When Sarah struggled with her fading eyesight, Nathan read to her every evening. They adapted, adjusted, and continued. Their children visited regularly, worried about them living alone in the increasingly isolated Castle Dome. Thomas especially urged them to move to Phoenix, where he could look after them, but Nathan and Sarah resisted. "This is our home," Sarah said firmly. "We are not leaving." "Mother, you are both in your 70s now," Thomas argued. "What if something happens? What if one of you falls or gets sick?" "Then we will deal with it," Nathan said. "Son, I appreciate your concern, but your mother and I have been taking care of each other for over 50 years. We are not going to stop now." Thomas eventually accepted their decision, though he hired a young couple from Yuma to check on his parents twice a week and help with heavy chores. Nathan and Sarah appreciated the help, though they maintained their independence fiercely. In 1932, as they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, all three of their children insisted on throwing them a proper party. Family came from all over Arizona, and friends from the few who still remembered Castle Dome's glory days. It was a joyous celebration, full of laughter and stories and love. During the party, Rose asked her parents to share the story of how they met. It was a story they had told many times, but everyone wanted to hear it again. Sarah began. "I got on a train in Philadelphia in March of 1882, traveling to meet a man I had never seen. I was terrified and alone, and I had no idea what my future held." Nathan continued. "I went to Yuma to meet a woman I had never met, expecting to enter into a practical arrangement. A marriage of duty and convenience. But what we found," Sarah said, her eyes meeting Nathan's across the room, "was something neither of us expected. We found love," Nathan finished. "Real, deep, lasting love." "Your mother gave me devotion beyond measure," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "She gave me everything. A home, a family, a life worth living. She showed me what it meant to truly love someone." "And your father gave me the same," Sarah added. "He could have kept our marriage practical and distant. Instead, he opened his heart. He showed me kindness and patience and love. He made me feel valued and cherished. We built this life together," they said almost in unison, then laughed at the synchronicity. The party continued late into the night, and when everyone finally left, Nathan and Sarah sat alone in their parlor, exhausted but happy. 50 years, Nathan said wonderingly. "How did we get so lucky?" "It was not luck. It was choice. We chose each other every single day for 50 years. And I would choose you for 50 more, Sarah smiled. "I think we have earned our rest. But yes, I would choose you for 50 more as well." They helped each other up from their chairs, both moving more slowly than they once had, and made their way upstairs to their bedroom. The house was quiet around them, full of the echoes of a life well lived. As they prepared for bed, moving through the rituals they had performed thousands of times, Nathan watched his wife and felt a surge of love so strong it almost hurt. She was 73 years old now, her hair completely white, her movements slower, her face marked by time, and she was still the most beautiful woman in the world to him. "What are you looking at?" Sarah asked, catching him staring. "You, my wife, the love of my life." She crossed to him and took his face in her hands. "I love you, Nathan Lawson. I have loved you for 50 years, and I will love you until my last breath. And I love you, Sarah Lawson. You are everything to me." They held each other close, two people who had started as strangers and become one. Outside their window, the desert night was vast and filled with stars. Inside, everything was warm and safe and full of love. They climbed into bed together, Nathan's arm around Sarah, her head on his chest. It was the same position they had slept in for 50 years, and it still felt perfect. "Nathan," Sarah whispered drowsily, "do you ever regret any of it, any choice we made?" "Not one single thing. You?" "No, I regret nothing. We lived well. We loved well. That is all that matters." They drifted off to sleep together, as they had done thousands of times before, and would do for as many nights as they had left. The years after their 50th anniversary were gentle and sweet. Nathan and Sarah's health declined slowly but steadily. They could no longer do all the things they once had, but they adapted. They spent their days reading together, tending a small garden, receiving visits from their children and grandchildren, and simply enjoying each other's company. They never lost their ability to talk to each other. Even after 50 years, they still found things to discuss, opinions to share, stories to tell. They knew each other completely, but they never grew bored. One morning in the spring of 1938, Sarah woke feeling unwell. Nathan wanted to send for the doctor immediately, but she refused. "It is nothing," she insisted. "Just feeling my age." But by evening she was worse, and Nathan did send for the doctor. He arrived from Yuma the next morning and examined Sarah carefully. "Her heart is weak," he told Nathan privately. "I cannot say how long she has. Days, weeks, maybe months if we are lucky." Nathan's world tilted. Sarah had always been there. He could not imagine a world without her, but when he went back to sit with her, he made sure his face showed none of his fear. She needed him to be strong. "What did the doctor say?" Sarah asked. Nathan never lied to her. They had promised decades ago to always be honest. "He says your heart is weak, that you need to rest." Sarah nodded slowly. "I thought it might be something like that. I am not afraid, Nathan." "I am," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I am terrified." She reached for his hand. "Do not be. We have had a beautiful life together, more than I ever dreamed of when I got on that train in Philadelphia. If this is the end, I am at peace with it." "It is not the end yet," Nathan said fiercely. "You are going to fight this. We still have time." "Then let us make the most of whatever time we have left." Nathan sent word to their children, and they came immediately. Thomas and Elizabeth, Rose and James with his wife and children all descended on the house in Castle Dome. The house that had been so quiet became full of life and noise again. Sarah rallied with her family around her. She was weak, but she was present, talking with each of her children, holding her grandchildren, soaking in the love that surrounded her. One afternoon, she asked Nathan to help her outside to the porch. It was a beautiful spring day, the desert in bloom with the sparse rain they had received. "This is where we had some of our best talks," she said softly. "Remember?" "I remember everything. Every moment with you is etched in my heart. I want you to know something, Nathan. I want you to know that you made my life extraordinary. I thought I was going to a life of duty and obligation. Instead, I found joy and love and partnership. You gave me everything. You gave me more. You gave me devotion beyond measure. You showed me what it meant to truly love someone." "We showed each other," she corrected. "We taught each other what love could be." They sat together in the spring sunshine, holding hands, saying goodbye without saying the words. Sarah lingered for 3 more weeks. Some days she was stronger, able to sit up and talk. Other days she was weak, sleeping most of the time. But Nathan was always there, holding her hand, reading to her, telling her stories, making sure she knew she was loved. On a warm evening in April, with Nathan sitting beside her bed and all their children nearby, Sarah squeezed Nathan's hand weakly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for being my partner, for loving me, for giving me such a beautiful life." "Thank you," Nathan said, tears streaming down his face, "for taking a chance on a stranger, for building a life with me, for loving me. You are everything, Sarah, everything." She smiled at him, that same smile that had captivated him 56 years before. "I love you always. I love you. Forever." Sarah closed her eyes and took her last breath with her hand in Nathan's and her family around her. The days after Sarah's death were the darkest Nathan had ever known. His children wanted him to come stay with one of them, but he refused. He stayed in the house in Castle Dome, surrounded by memories of Sarah. He felt her presence everywhere, in the kitchen where she had cooked thousands of meals, in the garden she had tended for decades, in their bedroom where they had shared so much love. Thomas was worried enough to take a leave from his job and stay with his father for several weeks. "Dad, you cannot stay here alone," he said one evening. "Come to Phoenix. Stay with Elizabeth and me. Let us take care of you." "No," Nathan said quietly but firmly. "This is where your mother and I built our life together. This is where I still feel close to her. I am not leaving." "Then let one of us stay with you." "No, you have your own lives. I will be all right, son, I promise." Thomas was not convinced, but he knew his father well enough to know when an argument was pointless. After Thomas left, Nathan fell into a routine. He woke each morning and made coffee the way Sarah had taught him. He tended her garden, keeping it alive because she had loved it. He read in the evenings from books they had enjoyed together. He talked to her, telling her about his day, asking her opinion on things, pretending she could hear him. He was not sure if it was grief or hope or madness, but sometimes he felt her presence so strongly he turned, expecting to see her standing there. Months passed. Summer came, brutally hot. Nathan moved through his days mechanically, eating little, sleeping poorly. His children visited as often as they could, worried about him, trying to coax him back to life. It was Rose who finally got through to him. She came to visit in October and found her father sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. "Dad," she said, sitting beside him, "Mom would not want this." "Want what?" "She would not want you to give up on life. She would want you to keep living, to find joy again." "I do not know how to do that without her." "Neither do I," Rose admitted. "I miss her terribly. But Dad, she gave you 56 years of love. Do not honor that by wasting whatever years you have left." Her words struck something in Nathan. Sarah would not want this. She would want him to live. Over the next weeks, Nathan slowly began to rejoin life. He started eating properly again. He began taking walks, something he and Sarah had done together for years. He even accepted an invitation to dinner at James's house. It was not that his grief diminished. He missed Sarah every moment of every day, but he learned to carry it, to live with it, to honor her memory by living well. He began writing down their story, wanting future generations to know about the woman he had loved and the life they had built together. He wrote about that first meeting at the train station, about their wedding, about the growth of their love. He wrote about their children, their challenges, their triumphs. He wrote about ordinary days and extraordinary moments. The writing gave him purpose. It kept Sarah alive in his mind and heart. 2 years after Sarah's death, Nathan received devastating news. His heart was failing just as Sarah's had. The doctor gave him months at best. Nathan was not afraid. If anything, he was relieved. He missed Sarah with an ache that had never faded. The thought of seeing her again filled him with peace. He called his children together and told them the news. They cried, but he comforted them. "I have lived a good life," he told them, "a full life. I have loved and been loved. I have raised 3 wonderful children. I have known joy and purpose. I am ready to go. I am ready to be with your mother again." "Are you sure you believe that?" James asked. "That you will see her again. I have to believe it. A love like ours cannot simply end. Somewhere, somehow, we will find each other again. Nathan spent his final months putting his affairs in order. He made sure the mine would pass to James smoothly. He divided his possessions among his children and grandchildren. He finished writing his and Sarah's story and gave copies to each of his children. "Read this to your children and grandchildren," he told them. "Let them know about the love your mother and I shared. Let them know that even a marriage that starts as duty can become something beautiful if both people are willing to open their hearts." As winter approached and Nathan grew weaker, he chose to stay in the house in Castle Dome. His children took turns staying with him, making sure he was comfortable and cared for. One evening in late December, with Thomas sitting quietly nearby, Nathan looked around the bedroom he had shared with Sarah for over 50 years. "She is here," he said softly. "Can you feel her?" "I think so, Dad. Tell your sisters and brother that I love them. Tell them I am proud of them. Tell them yourself. You have time yet." "No, it is tonight. I can feel it." Nathan smiled, and it was the most peaceful expression Thomas had seen on his father's face since his mother's death. "It is all right. I am ready. She is waiting for me." Thomas held his father's hand as Nathan's breathing grew slower, shallower. "I love you," Nathan whispered. "Sarah, I love you. I am coming home." And with those words, Nathan Lawson closed his eyes for the last time. He was buried next to Sarah in the small cemetery outside Castle Dome. Their graves sit side by side, the headstones bearing simple inscriptions with their names and dates, and one additional line chosen by their children. "Together in life, together in death, together forever." The house in Castle Dome eventually became a small museum, maintained by Nathan and Sarah's descendants. Visitors can see the parlor where they sat together thousands of evenings, the kitchen where Sarah cooked, the bedroom they shared, the porch where they watched countless sunsets. And in a glass case in the parlor sits Nathan's manuscript, the story of their love. People come from all over to read it, to learn about the couple who started as strangers bound by duty and became partners united by devotion. Their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren carry forward their legacy. They tell stories of Nathan and Sarah at family gatherings. They visit the old house in Castle Dome when they can. They remember and honor the love that started everything. Because Nathan and Sarah's story is not just about romance or marriage or the Old West. It is about the choice to love, the decision to open your heart, even when it is frightening, the commitment to be a partner, not just a spouse, the devotion that goes beyond duty to something deeper and truer. Nathan expected duty when he agreed to marry Sarah. He expected a practical arrangement, a solution to loneliness, a wife who would manage his household and give him children. But Sarah gave him so much more. She gave him devotion beyond measure. She gave him love that transformed his life. She gave him partnership, joy, purpose, and meaning, and Nathan gave her the same. He gave her safety when she needed it most. He gave her respect and kindness. He gave her love that honored her, cherished her, saw her as a partner and equal. Together, they proved that love can grow anywhere, even in the harsh desert. That marriages born of necessity can become unions of the heart. That two strangers can become one if they are brave enough to try. Their story ended with death, as all stories must. But it also ended with peace, with love, with the knowledge that they had lived well and loved well. They had built something lasting that would echo through generations. And somewhere, in whatever comes after, two souls who started as strangers were reunited. Nathan and Sarah together again, their devotion to each other eternal and unbreakable, just as it had always been meant to be.